Hello and welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Jason Whitlock. Colin Cowherd is out today. It's been a wild first round at the U.S. Open. Tim Brando is here to talk about it with me. Let's get into it. Here's some of the notable scores from the first round. As you see, Dustin Johnson at the top. Ian Poulter has played well. Justin Thomas is right there in it. Tiger was 4 over through the first 2 holes. He's now at 3 over. Were you surprised by his struggles coming out of the gate?
No, not at all. And I also shouldn't be surprised, nor should you be surprised, with what he's done since. At Torrey Pines, when he last won in 2008, on the first hole, 3 of the 4 rounds, he shot double bogey, still went on to win the tournament in that magnificent playoff with Rocco Mediate.
Double bogey on the first hole. On the first hole. And on Friday, he did start on number 10 in 2008. But you're right. I, on the other hand, I'm taking a more skeptical approach to Tim, honestly. Yeah. And part of it is I'm a huge Tiger Woods fan, but part of it I think is just realistic. I don't think this Tiger Woods is the same in any way as the old Tiger Woods. I think pressure gets to Tiger now, the way pressure used to get to his opponents. And so I was skeptical playing with Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas. I thought that would be too much pressure on Tiger Woods, and he comes out and lays an egg right off the bat, and then he backs it up on number 2 as well. I wasn't surprised at all.
Well, understand this. Those 2 guys actually play a lot of golf with him in Jupiter, so he's, especially Thomas, who idolizes him. But I get your point. He isn't the same, and I think there's going to be an overreaction to whatever he does, whether it's you because you're getting yourself ready for, his being knocked out after 2 rounds because you're preparing yourself for the worst, or from those that feel that he's really right back where he was and should be winning majors again. It goes over the top, either positively or negatively for Tiger, no matter what. What I'm saying to you is tee to green, especially off the tee, he's really hitting the ball very well. He's hitting fairways. Problem is, this is a second shot golf course. Ask Phil Mickelson. He hit 13 out of 14 fairways today and shot 77. So he still has to navigate 11. Of all those guys that we were looking at, the most impressive 69 is the one that's in the house, belonging to Ian Poulter. Those other guys, including Dustin Johnson, have a lot of golf to play, and those greens are getting crustier and crustier.
Tim, I just want to go back to this again, though. And I get, hey, putting the top players together is great for the USGA. They had some pressure.
They do it at the players, too. They do.
But I think for Tiger, it just works in reverse. His ego kicks in playing against a Dustin Johnson and a Justin Thomas. The pressure to get back to being the old Tiger kicks in. I really think Tiger's going to struggle to make the cut. And I know he steadied himself since the first 2 holes.
It's early.
Thursdays haven't been good to him recently, and and that to me is the difference between the old Tiger and the new Tiger. That pressure coming out of the gate, he doesn't handle it that well.
The old Tiger Woods on hole number 1, to your point, would have pulled out, a 56-degree wedge and pitched it up that hill and nestled it to within about 4 feet, tapped in for par. His playing partners each were in bunkers, got up and down. He couldn't. And he went with a flat stick, which tells you that he didn't have the same confidence that those guys had. And a lot of that is just playing and not playing in that atmosphere. The last time he was in a U.S. Open, it was Chambers Bay, and he shot an 80 on the second day. I'm sure on that first hole, even Tiger Woods was feeling it a little bit. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt based on how he's played since.
All right, Tiger struggled early. There's some top names that struggled for all 18 holes.
Indeed.
Terrible rounds today from Rory McIlroy finishing at 10 over, Jordan Spieth at 8 over, and Phil Mickelson at 7 over. What are your thoughts on the morning's featured group, a combined 25 over?
Super groups, super duds, okay? Just as was the case in the Players' Championship when Rory and Spieth and Justin were paired together. It happens a lot. Guys draft off one another, and if they're not playing great, then they can all struggle a little bit. Guys that are really playing well, neither of these 3 did. I was just shocked because I said here yesterday with you and Colin that this golf course is made to order for Mickelson. Short game wizardry being his strength, and his second shots today were awful. He hit 13 out of 14 fairways and shot a 77. had opportunities with the flat stick. Even on the final hole, the 18th, he had a 5-footer uphill, not a lot of break, and he missed that putt. But 77 still has him in the game. If you shoot 77 and you're 7 over, you figure if you shoot par tomorrow, you shoot 70 tomorrow, 6 or 7 over right now, that's the cut line. More than likely, that's the cut line. Could go to about 8, but Mickelson is pressing. I thought Spieth's driver is wavering. You can't overcome that. McIlroy absolutely collapsed. And in the case of Mickelson, to your point about Tiger Woods, he's pressing. He knows that
late
window
in the game for him.
It's late in the game. And this golf course, along with Pebble Beach next year, are the 2 golf courses that really set up well for him. So I think he knows if not this year or next year, it's over for the Grand Slam.
Not saying this to tweak you, but we talked early this morning when these guys were out on the course, and we both thought, but you in particular thought, the course was going to get harder throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it may be a little bit easier because guys got to see these guys go out early, how they handled the wind.
Played more conservatively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these guys were actually punished from having to play early.
The exact opposite of, I was talking to our guys on the ground that were there on Long Island, and they said, listen, if you're having an early tee time on Thursday, a later tee time on Friday, you're at a distinct advantage. The greens were soft. If you listen to Curtis Strange, even when Tiger's group was teeing off, Curtis said, you know, these greens are still a little moist. And that tells you something about the overnight rain. It's going to get worse, not better, as the golf tournament moves on. And I still think the winning score, Jason, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be over par. It'll be a 2 over, 3 over winner by Sunday.
All right, listen, when we talked earlier, this is one thing we definitely disagree on. You love the carnage of the U.S. Open.
I do.
I don't like it at all. I really don't. I want to see the best players scoring. The U.S. Open is just too unpredictable for me, and I end up at the top of the leaderboard, and Dustin Johnson's there now, so I'm happy. But I end up with some names that I'm not as familiar with. I don't like the carnage.
You know, you were a better football player at Ball State, and I couldn't play football and gave it up to announce games in the 9th grade, okay?
Got you.
Your view on this is that of a non-player. Mine is the view of a player, an amateur player that loves to go out and break 80, okay? Making a Mickey Mantle on the first hole, making a 7, you know, when you're playing in your regular Saturday group, has happened to me many times, happens to a lot of other guys with 9, 10, 11, 15 handicaps. We want in the U.S. Open to see how a guy responds to a Mickey Mantle or a Joe DiMaggio, a 6 or a 7 on the first hole. That's what makes the USGA, that's why there's so many members of the USGA that are amateur players. It's also one of the reasons they've got 20-plus amateurs in the field that have no chance of winning this golf tournament. But it's what makes the U.S. Open different. So I don't mind you saying that. Augusta National will always be a birdie fest on the back 9, but the U.S. Open's not supposed to be Augusta National. So your point is well made, but it's coming from the prism of a non-golfer versus a golfer.
You're making a hell of a point that I hadn't thought of, because I'm talking to my lawyer's son. I'm very close to him. He's like a little brother to me. He's a hardcore golfer.
Yeah.
And when Tiger makes the 7-on-3, we're talking.
He's
he goes,
salivating.
But also he's like, hey, man, there's a lot of golf to play.
That's
Tiger's a grinder. Tiger can, and I'm of the opinion like, oh, man, I think Tiger getting kicked in the teeth, that's going to set the tone for the rest of the day. Right. And he's like, nah, man, he can handle this. He'll survive it. That's what great golf is.
Well, and if you look back at past winners on this particular golf course, going all the way back to 86, and even Corey Pavin in 95, grinders win U.S. Opens. And Tiger Woods right now, because his competitive length is still strong, but he's the guy he's the short ball hitter today. You know, Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson are hitting the ball past him today, all right? So he's having to grind. He's having to play mortality golf, okay? He was immortal when you became such a fan of his. Now he's one of them. And he's having to grind to win.
All right, we got about 8 hours of golf to evaluate so far at the U.S. Open. Who do you like so far now that we have some information?
Well, 3 guys that just jump out to me today. First off, Ian Poulter. We're talking about a guy that less than 12 months ago, his PGA Tour privileges were about to be lost before.
He'll fade tomorrow, Tim.
He'll
fade tomorrow.
He could, but he is a Ryder Cup grinder. And this is a guy that I believe, because he said to himself, you know what, I'm not worried about winning majors anymore. Other guys are going to carry the burden like Ricky Fowler of having to win a major. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just glad to have my privileges. His 69 today was legit. Tee to green, and his putting was outstanding today. Second guy that jumps out, an Englishman, third-ranked player in the world, and I think the three areas, driving, short game, and also putting. Justin Rose's putter has been unwieldy through the years, but he won at Marion, and he knows how to win U.S. Opens. And I think right now, if I had to pick one player in the field that I most believe will win this golf tournament, it's Justin Rose. And then third, for Ricky Fowler to shoot a 73, a little bit like Tiger right now on the golf course, who steadied himself, Ricky Fowler had no birdies today. If you shoot 3 over par without a birdie, that means your game was pretty solid in a lot of areas. And there's some birdies that golf course owes him. And Ricky Fowler would be the most popular current player to win this U.S. Open.
I'm not going to like anyone until Sunday. Literally, because I don't think we won't have enough information after today.
Yeah.
Even the guys that we think, Roy McIlroy, he's out of this tournament. I'm not ready to go there because we have U.S. Open greens and wind like it's a British Open.
Yeah.
That's going to lead to all hell breaking loose at some point, and the guys that we think are in control will be out of control.
No, you're absolutely right. There are some guys. Charlie Hoffman, I woke up this morning, I see him leading.
The pace car.
He's like the pace car. You wake up every major, Charlie Hoffman's got the early lead. Guys can come. Russell Henley's a magnificent player that few people know that much about. And who knows, he might really have a great tournament. We could have a surprise winner, but if you're asking me now to handicap what we've seen and pick 3 guys that I believe have the best chance of moving forward and winning this tournament, it would be those 3 guys.
I'm going to be a front runner and just say, look, I think the most talented guy in golf right now is Dustin Johnson.
He is.
He's at the top of the leaderboard.
He is.
Why not go there?
Absolutely.
That's as sexy a pick as I can make.
Well, he had a walk-off at the FedEx St. Jude with a 9-iron from 179 yards. Talk about playing a game that many amateurs are unfamiliar with.
This time of year brings us 2 things: graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this: does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply. All right, welcome back. Tim Brando's here. Joining me now are a couple of former athletes turned golf nuts.
My guys.
Jim Jackson and Greg Jennings.
Oh, hoops.
All right, let's return to Tiger Woods, who is paired with the top 2 players in the world today in Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas, and got off to an ugly start with a triple bogey on the first hole. The Tiger of old always seemed to thrive under pressure, but since coming back this year, he struggled when the pressure is on the most. I didn't like this pairing. I didn't like Tiger playing with the best players, the most talented. I think Justin Thomas was ranked number 1. I didn't like it because I don't think the new Tiger handles that pressure as well as the old Tiger. Actually, I think he struggles with it. Both of you guys have been in that situation, playing against the very best in the world. Your take on whether or not Tiger still rises to the occasion the way he used to?
I think he rises to the occasion. The way he used to, no. No, we have yet to see that. And I think the number one thing that stands out for me is his demeanor, the way he carries himself on the golf course after he's struck a bad shot or he's finding himself in that grind mode. His demeanor, his posture on that next shot is everything. When I see Tiger throwing his head back or swinging his club in disbelief, I don't like that because that tells me where he is mentally approaching the next shot, which is going to be even more critical than the shot he just took. But the pairing, I mentioned this yesterday kind of off air. Yeah. I didn't care for the pairing because Tiger, his pride sometimes gets in the way. He wants to still show that he can hit the ball a long way and hit the ball with these young guys. And we know that he can, but use your smarts. You're savvy. You're a veteran golfer. You've been around the block 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Like, use that to your advantage and get an edge in that way versus trying to outdistance these guys, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but the thing about it, when Tiger was winning and dominating, his biggest attribute was his mental approach to the game and how he approached it. Whether he was down or leading going into the final round, he was able to close things out. I think when he went through a lot of the iterations of his career, the divorce, the injuries, that mental part now became an enemy of him, because he tended to overthink. If you're changing your swing, every 2 to 3 years.
Which he did.
Okay, yeah. Now the mentality part is not the same. So when we see Tiger Woods now healthy, the health concern to me is the mental part of it. I don't care who he's playing with. Dustin Johnson, it could be Henry Stenson, whoever it is. It's not the same Tiger mentally. I don't care what the physical attributes are. Those things are going to show up. He can still hit the ball. He can still chip the ball. But the mentality is so different because he was a straight killer. I was watching the tournament one time when he was determined to go under par, to make sure he didn't get a bogey. Yeah. He was up by 7 strokes. He made sure he hit a key shot on the green, a long putt, to make sure that in a critical moment, I may have to knock in this putt. I don't see that same mentality from Tiger, and that's what concerns me moving forward in regards to, can he win another major?
What we're seeing right now, okay, is that the players he's playing with today,
not different.
They're different, okay? They're not fearful of him at all.
Right.
They're going flagstick hunting on every shot. The great players of the generation when Tiger was coming up were trying to get on the green, make some pars, get a check, and finishing second and third was okay. If you were making millions of dollars, even if you weren't winning, then you were doing pretty well. Tiger brought this mentality of, if I don't win, I'm unhappy. Well, the millennials that are out there, including the 2 he's playing with today, have that mentality. And he's the short knocker of the 3 that are out there today. So I go back to grinding, to your point, being immortal, okay, not being supernatural now, and winning. And that's something he's having to get accustomed to.
Tim, I want your reaction to this. Jim said something about Tiger, whether he was in front or behind, he always had the mental edge, the old Tiger. I slightly disagree, and I'm a big Tiger Woods homer. I've always thought Tiger was a bit of a front runner.
Oh, he is.
He doesn't have the come-from-behind victories that Jack Nicklaus has.
Right.
And again, he has majors.
Yeah.
He's got 19 victories when he's behind 54 holes. So he's had 19.
Right, but not in majors.
But not in,
and I think what happened in the PGA when he lost to Wai Yang, when that happened, okay, that's when the wheels began to come off. And then the injuries mounted. That's the other thing. You look at where, the torque that he's generating, the speed in his swing with a fused back. My concern for Tiger Woods is his health. How long can he continue with that swing speed, Jim, and be successful? Because he is competing with those guys, and he's 43 years old.
I disagree. He's had the fusion surgery. I think his back's not the issue. I think Jim's point about the mental health is the key. Yeah. And then I go back to, again, and look, I love Tiger, but I've always thought this. He wasn't built for adversity. He's not.
I agree with you.
He's not Ray Lewis that came from the bottom and overcame a bunch of stuff and then became an all-time great.
Oh, but it was marketed that way back in the day.
Tiger.
Earl made sure of that.
You know what, though?
God bless Earl, but he made sure of that.
I'm agree with you on this. Because he had the military background, we assume that he was mentally tough in that aspect. But not growing up and having that kind of adversity, kind of going through some when you're younger, to be able to deal with it and know how to navigate through it. When it hit Tiger, it hit him hard because he never had to navigate that. Here's the thing. When he didn't come back and play in the Phoenix Open, now it's the Waste Management, okay? When he came out of the divorce. There is more of a raucous crowd. You can hear everything. Tiger chose not to play. He wanted to come back to a safer environment, which was Augusta. Tiger heard all of the stuff going on, whereas before, he didn't hear it.
See, I hear all of that, and I agree, but I don't think you have to have this upbringing or this backdrop of stuff.
But it's a salient point.
It is a very valid point. Yeah. But for me, what made Tiger Tiger is, front runner or not, when he stepped on that tee box, he knew
I'm the best.
He was the best.
Yeah.
Right now, when he steps up to the tee or steps up on an approach shot or even on the green, tee to green.
Adversity.
Yeah, tee to green. To your point, it's more mental for him.
You watch his wife took a 9-iron to his jaw, and he's never recovered. I love the dude, but he's never recovered mentally from that. And there's a lot of guys, I'm just telling you, look, man, some guys, it's like I'm built for adversity.
Right.
You can laugh at me, do whatever you want to do. Are you kidding me? I was in a one-bedroom apartment, me and my father, 400 square foot my senior year. I thought my world, I was the most popular kid in my school, living in the hood, sharing a one-bedroom apartment with nothing. I could care less about who's laughing. Tiger Woods has always cared who's laughing at it. And since they started laughing, he hasn't been the same mentally.
Jason, it's a selfish game. It's an individual game. When he was the best, he didn't care what anybody else thought, including his playing competitors. He stepped on the jugular like no one else did. Now his personal comeback is such that this is a much easier and affable guy to be with. He's treating the media beautifully, giving them more access than he's ever given. Can a normal, reconstructed personality of Tiger Woods go out and be the bulldog on the golf course to the extent that you want him to be? And for Tiger lovers that are watching this event only because Tiger's playing in it, I'm going to suggest you better get used to the new Tiger, because the old Tiger is a part of history.
That's why I don't think he's going to make the cut. Just very quickly, Jim, Greg, who do you like? What you've seen so far, who do you think can win this tournament?
Oh, I like Dustin. The way Dustin is playing with his swagger, his confidence coming off that win last week, like the way he's approaching it, tee to green, I heard you saying it earlier, his confidence is through the roof. He believes that he can make every ball strike and every putt.
Putting's better than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
his confidence in the way he steps up to the putter, I like it.
About 20 seconds.
Well, with Dustin, from his perspective, he has to fight history. No player who has won a tournament before the U.S. Open has won a U.S. Open. So he's going to make history if he does that.
He's not even thinking about that.
But he's playing at another level right now. So I like, selfishly, Henry Stenson, because our pool, I had to bet on him. So selfishly, that's who I like.
His iron is kind right now.
Welcome back. LeBron James doesn't respect Kevin Durant and what he's accomplished. LeBron can't verbalize it. It would look petty and immature. It would cause the internet to melt. Myles Garrett is free to say it. Garrett is the second-year defensive end for the Cleveland Browns. He was the #1 overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. This morning, I believe Garrett spoke on behalf of all of Cleveland, Akron, Northeast Ohio, and King James himself when he spoke the unmitigated truth about Kevin Durant's latest championship and NBA Finals MVP.
I mean, KD broke the league. You hopped onto a 73-9 team, and he took the easy way out, in my mind. You know, it was different for when LeBron left. He kind of went to, Wade and Bosh, and it wasn't something that was already guaranteed, something that you already knew was going to have immediate success. You kind of had to gel and work things into place. But with KD, you just stick him in and he scores. I mean, you already knew what they had. They were 73-9 before, and you put the second best player in the world on a already all-time great team, and of course you're going to have success, and pretty easy success.
Mr. Coattails. That is Kevin Durant's legacy among his athletic peers. It's not a clickbait hot take from someone in the media looking for attention. It's a reflection of how Durant is viewed by other great athletes, including the greatest one playing now. Is it fair for me to attribute Garrett's opinion to LeBron? Maybe not. But I believe it's how LeBron feels. The #1 pick in the NFL draft, who happens to play in Cleveland, surely knows and is friendly with James and some of the people around James. LeBron James is obsessed with his legacy and a pursuit of Michael Jordan's throne. Durant's Golden State success is a threat to James's legacy. Durant and Steph Curry could both end their careers with more titles than LeBron. Can't be the GOAT if you weren't the most dominant winner in your era. That's why Magic Johnson always ranks at least one spot ahead of Larry Bird. That's why Jordan ranks ahead of Magic. What Garrett verbalized is bigger than just Kevin Durant. It's about the whole Golden State dynasty. It's fraudulent. They cheated. The entire organization took the easy way out. Steph, Draymond, Steve Kerr, Durant, JaVale McGee, E40. Everybody's got choices. Did Durant make the right one? Durant made the one that undermines respect. I think Garrett's words this morning are significant on multiple levels. It's a window into LeBron's soul. LeBron's not going to Houston or Philly or San Antonio or any other already made team. LeBron believes there's a huge difference between what he did in Miami and the easy path chosen by Durant and Curry. Everybody's got choices. KD sold his soul for a title. All right, joining me now, former NBA player Jim Jackson, former NFL player Greg Jennings, and NBA analyst Chris Broussard. All LeBron apologists. Tell me why I'm wrong here. I mean, LeBron apologists, but tell me why I'm wrong here. LeBron, I don't think, has any respect for Kevin Durant.
Well, it's different because the path that LeBron took was, let me figure out how we need to win. Let me go somewhere. It's like going to Apple. I'm going to Apple right now. I'm going to learn from the best, and I'm going to start my own business. He went to Miami, learned how to win, took it back to Cleveland. So that, what you said before, his championship in Cleveland has more weight than what it does in Miami. To me, Kevin Durant has always been a player that has a 1A game, but the personality is a second-tier personality in regards to leading a team. His game is no doubt 1A, but who he wants to be as the man with all the pressure and shoulder the load, I don't think he's ever been that way. I think, too, what you said here about Golden State cheating, come on, you got to give them credit for this.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
I'm going to tell you why.
No.
Listen, drafting Steph, when nobody understood exactly who he was as a point guard. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. You also fill out your bench with Sean Livingston, West. All these moves that Harrison Barnes at the time. So they did an outstanding job of laying the groundwork to build to get to this
Title
point.
won, you're right. Title won.
But you said they're
2
fraud.
and 3
you put it all together.
Is fraudulent.
You didn't say that. Why is it their fault?
I mean, every team is trying to be as good as they can. We always talk about we love Jordan, we love Kobe, we love Magic because they will put the foot on your neck. That's what Golden State did. They said, yeah, we're already the best. Now we're going to crush you, and we're going to win as many titles as we want. So I definitely can't blame them. As far as LeBron's respect for Durant, I do think he has the utmost respect for Durant. You saw how complimentary he was to him during the finals. Okay, I get it. But if he didn't respect him, he wouldn't have walked away and said, Rodney Hood, go ahead and stop him. That's respect. He didn't want to guard him at the end of the game. So he respects him. And while, yes, what Durant, I'll use this term even though I don't think it was a bad thing Durant did, while it was worse than what LeBron did when LeBron went to Miami, in principle it was similar. Because LeBron said, I'm going to a stacked team. Everybody says, oh, they went out in the first round. He didn't go there by himself. He went with Chris Bosh, who was in the running for the best power forward in the league at that time. That Miami team was stacked. And they only won 2 out of 4. Durant at least has won both times. It'd be one thing if he went there and averaged 14 points a game and became a role player. He went there and became their best player. You have to give him respect.
Yeah, and for me, that's where, number one, it was a good article. Very intriguing article. Myles Garrett, he's in Cleveland. Of course, he's going to say these things. And I agree to a certain degree. But to say Kevin Durant, is riding coattails when he won the MVP the last 2 years in the finals, he's the reason that he's put them over the hump to where they're almost untouchable now. That's not riding coattails. We can all agree to disagree with the decision. It is different than what LeBron did, but in this sense, it is kind of similar because in the East, in the Eastern Conference, you took 3 of the better players in the East and put them on the same team.
I'm gonna try to translate what LeBron really thinks. He can't say it. He had Myles Garrett say it. In my view, I don't think he asked him to. But the atmosphere, LeBron has set an atmosphere in Cleveland where Myles Garrett said what needed to be said and LeBron wanted said. I'm gonna try to translate it without getting myself into trouble, but y'all will know what I'm talking about. Golden State is that suburban team that, let's say, in 1997, or I'm gonna go back to my childhood. In 1981, we go out and beat some suburban team. And then the next year you play them, and they've hijacked 2 or 3 players from the city to come play for them, and then they beat y'all, and then all the little dudes that you used to beat up the year before and the year before, now they talking smack like we did something. And you know damn well they went out and stole some players that don't even live in their zip code, that have nothing to do with them. They wouldn't even have dinner with them if they wasn't on the team with them and they needed them to win a championship. That's what Golden State did by getting Kevin Durant, and LeBron doesn't justifiably respect
Let me, enough, all right? I'm tired of you ripping the suburban kid. I was a suburban kid, and let me tell you this. The game of basketball has become a suburban game. You might not want to hear that.
Not for LeBron.
Kyrie Irving,
Not for LeBron.
suburban. Steph Curry, Karl Anthony Towns, Ben Simmons. I could go on and on. These
Not for
guys are
LeBron.
growing up in the suburbs. They ain't playing on the playgrounds no more. Every game they play from the age of 8 on is in a gym, it's set up, it's AAU and all that.
Structure to it.
LeBron is from the hood, but the rest of these guys are suburban now a lot of times.
I've seen it, and you're right from that perspective, but the game has changed and shifted so much. LeBron, I think his thinking is he don't worry about a lot of stuff like that in regards to Kevin Durant and his legacy, because Kevin Durant's titles, even if Golden State gets them, I don't think it impacts his legacy, because the way LeBron was able to do it by doing it in Cleveland with the team that he had against Golden State is a lot different than Kevin Durant, even if he wins a couple more.
If Steph Curry finishes with 5 or 6 titles and the style of play in the NBA looks like Steph Curry's game, you're telling me people aren't going to be arguing? LeBron, you didn't dominate this era the way that Steph Curry did.
Maybe not on a championship level, on an individual level.
Exactly.
On an individual level, that's not even a question. You always go stack up between who it is. And also, too,
It's
who's
Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain.
Who's writing the
Hurt him in the
narrative,
GOAT
though?
argument.
We're writing the narrative today. 15, 20 years from now, the young millennials are going to be writing this narrative. It's going to be a different conversation back then, because they're used and too accustomed to what's happening today. So that narrative 15, 20 years from now is going to look a lot different.
But I think even more than anything, the fact that LeBron was able to win the way he won, even though he did have Kyrie when he went back to Cleveland, it felt like he was.
What is that?
No,
Is that 3?
No, keep going.
It felt like he did it more by himself. With Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and all even though they drafted most of their guys, with the exception of Kevin Durant coming over, it still feels like it was assembled. It got set up. LeBron doing it his own way, even though he went down to Miami. When he went back to Cleveland, he made that choice. It was almost as if, I started something, I left, I'm coming back to finish it.
But
and
he
complete
assembled too, because he had to go get Kevin Love, you had to get Kyle Korver, you had to get the complimentary James Jones at the time when he played first.
Kyle Korver.
But he had to assemble the pieces in order to get to the champ. Kevin Love got him a championship in Cleveland.
Where
You know
you're
what I'm
right, Jason, is I think we all would agree, if Durant were to leave Golden State, say he goes back to OKC or he goes home to Washington and won a championship, it would mean more and it would get more respect. But that's different than saying he's not respected at all with these.
I don't want to say
other
not respected at all, but he don't get the ultimate respect, and I think Myles Garrett articulated. I'm going to make this point, and this won't be the ultimate proof, because who knows what LeBron James is going to do. But I think this will be another point in my favor, because I don't think Houston, Philadelphia, or San Antonio have any shot at LeBron James, because that would look similar to what Durant did. I think what Myles Garrett is laying the foundation for is LeBron's about to do what he did in Miami and get 2 or 3 a couple of pieces to go with him to LA or wherever. But hopping on some team that's already got a flow and a momentum to him, not gonna happen. LeBron is gonna build up something again from scratch, win another championship, and say Durant, Steph Curry, they couldn't do this.
Let me ask you this. If Kevin Durant, because look, Myles Garrett isn't the only one. Jared Dudley came on my radio show Sunday. CJ McCollum's tweeting, you need to go win one on your own. If Kevin, and then even at the parade, now I thought Golden State went a little too far. You know what I mean? Like he's already Durant sensitive. Yep. He's already hearing this. So let's say hypothetically Durant said, you know what? All right, forget y'all. I'm gonna go somewhere else and win it. And he called LeBron and said, let's go to the Lakers. You don't think LeBron would do that?
Why wouldn't
He would. That's
I know
my
he
point.
would. Why wouldn't
So
that would be the same as joining Dwayne Wade and doing the Miami thing.
I think that would be now I wouldn't fault LeBron for doing
That
it,
would
but I
almost
think that
be
would be an
worse.
easier path than going to San Antonio or Philly or Boston.
But how does that change the narrative for Kevin Durant? Let's say they do that and they win a championship. Does that change the narrative for Kevin Durant?
I don't
It
think
doesn't.
so. 'Cause
You see what I'm
with the
saying?
best
We're
player.
still
No,
at the
it wouldn't make
But that's what I'm saying. It goes to that.
He makes it even worse
It
for them.
goes to the
Exactly.
same point. Like I said, a 1A game, but with a 2 personality in regards to leadership and being that man, being that mantra. Everybody's not built like that. You know, we want everybody to be the man because the game is there. But mentality-wise, a lot of guys are not built to carry that load up and down.
Chris, I'm glad you said that because you've opened my mind to that possibility. That maybe is what they're laying the foundation for. And again, that's a long shot. Durant has said but who knows what trick LeBron has up his sleeve.
I've thought about it. I mean, look, Durant has said he's going back to Golden State, but I have thought about that.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. It wouldn't help Durant because people would just say, now you're with the best player in the world. You know, this is just more of the same. So, and Durant's in position, to your point, about keeping LeBron from winning more rings. Durant could stay in. What if he gets up with 5? He ends up with 4 or 5 rings.
That's not Durant's mentality to keep anything away from LeBron. Durant wants everybody to be happy, man. All these guys.
I think LeBron is like that.
All these guys want everybody to be happy, but
Russell ain't.
But no. LeBron is sneaky, man, and it's like LeBron is sneaky, and I think he's a guy that said, "Oh, I can spot some weakness here that I can exploit."
Yeah.
I got a guy I can talk into coming and being my bottom player. That's what I think potentially he's doing with Kevin Durant. Seriously. All right, welcome back. Jim Jackson and Greg Jennings are back. We're joined now by the founder of The Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the UFC, where Dana White is being criticized for signing former NFL defensive end Greg Hardy to a developmental deal. Hardy was basically forced out of the NFL because of his poor handling of the aftermath of a misdemeanor domestic violence conviction his lawyers had overturned and he vigorously disputed. The Marxist blog Deadspin is, of course, the ringleader of the Hardy and White bashing. Yesterday, Deadspin published a piece blasting White for being hypocritical and motivated by money. I don't get this. Fighting is not a morality play. Fighting is actually the epitome of immorality. Hypocrisy and greed are at the foundation of mixed martial arts, boxing, and schoolyard brawls. The people who think Hardy is pure evil should be celebrating the fact that he's found a profession that matches his alleged character. I'll ask the outraged, virtue-signaling liberals, what should ex-convicts do? Live on welfare? Is that the solution? These same outraged do-gooders pretend to be the friends of poor people of color, especially those caught in our flawed criminal justice system. A female judge and a female assistant prosecutor originally sentenced Hardy to probation and a 60-day suspended sentence for misdemeanor domestic violence. They are far more informed and honorable than the people trying to slap a scarlet letter on Hardy and White. I just don't understand why this is controversial that Greg Hardy's in the UFC.
Well, it's because of the domestic violence issues, whether that got dismissed or not. He had character issues. But for me, I think it's a great move because redemption is something that we always look for. And why not be able to do it in a different sport? It's not like he's coming back to the NFL and we're judging him based on that. And UFC doesn't have the best track record in regards to not having some individuals who've been involved in some domestic violence. And I agree with you on this. It's a violent sport. This man has a chance now to use that violence and that anger to be able to make a career out of himself. And I think in the long term, it could bode well for UFC in regard from a marketing perspective of what Greg Hardy can bring to the table because of that dynamic former football player, now turned UFC pro, making a lot of money, winning a lot of events.
Yeah, I like it. I like the move. And I credit a lot of this to Dana White because he probably knew going into this, I'm going to take some flack for this. But is this the best move for not only the UFC, but for this young man to give him another opportunity to get back on his feet? And I don't like this whole idea of keep somebody down when they're down. Like, no, allow them to get back up. he's chosen to get back up, find another outlet to where he can express and release some of his anger or whatever it is. Allow him to do that. That's his right. And so for Dana White to say, you know what, I'll take it on, I believe it's going to work out. It's going to be beneficial for both sides. And we just have to let the man live and move past what he's done. We understand what he's done.
Why are you laughing?
Well, it's unfortunate as a blogger here. I feel like I'm getting backed into a corner. I agree with you guys on everything. And I actually think there's no but, Jim. There's no but here. But I do believe that this is one of the problems of giving a voice to everybody. Social media, having a blog, it's great that everybody can have their opinion. It's wonderful. But then you get one person saying that, geez, Greg Hardy, he can't even be an Uber driver, much less an MMA fighter, UFC guy. Like, what should Greg Hardy do with the rest of his life? Yeah. Should he do nothing because one outlet here says, geez, man, this guy's he's radioactive because 4 years ago he got in trouble? Like, it's just unfortunate. And I know, Whitlock, we talk about this a lot, the social media stuff, and it's a bit of a problem because
I think
this is garbage.
You raised a great point that even I just hadn't thought of in context to the Greg Hardy deal. I've thought of it, and we've talked about it. Everybody, the democratization of media voices, everybody has one now, and we have to take seriously everything any person says who has an outlet to publish it over the internet.
Any idiot said?
Yeah,
it's okay. Nobody.
I was about to say something. But it's just wrong because people aren't thinking through their arguments or they're beholden to some political agenda. Again, none of us, I want to be clear here because this will be put out, 4 guys just sitting around caping up for Greg Hardy. And I don't think any of us are doing that. What Greg Hardy was involved in was a terrible incident, a criminal incident, but the misguided outrage towards Greg Hardy and Dana White, again, when I say the court system, a female judge who is an advocate for women in abuse issues, graduated from Harvard. She's not a joke with this. An assistant prosecutor, black female, was involved in settling the case for Greg Hardy, and they settled on a misdemeanor with a 60-day suspension. That's what got overturned. He was never going to jail. A judge, a prosecutor, and there was a male prosecutor involved as well. They are experts in this area. And so they looked at all the facts and reached a conclusion, misdemeanor, 60-day suspended sentence. Experts did this, people that deal with this every day. And now just a group of people on the internet said, well, we've decided that we know better and that's not enough. And Greg Hardy must be buried under a jail. That's the only solution here.
You're definitely right that what Greg Hardy did was awful. But nobody reads the facts, Jason. They just see the headline. Greg Hardy did this. There were guns on the bed. Greg Hardy, it's done. That's how justice is done now on the internet. You just read the headline. Nobody dives deep into the facts. And that's a big problem right now.
All right, welcome back. Tim Brando and Greg Jennings are back. We're joined now by longtime NFL player and scout Bucky Brooks. Let's move to Baltimore, where people are getting excited about Lamar Jackson with the Ravens using their rookie quarterback at a variety of different positions in practice and players raving about his athletic ability. Not only that, but safety Eric Weddle says Lamar's presence has, quote, lit a fire under Joe Flacco, which is exactly what the Ravens need, but maybe not what Lamar needs. That's kind of my take. Yeah. I think that this is going to work out great for the Ravens. They're going to get Lamar Jackson on the field early at a variety of positions. He's going to help them in a variety of ways. And I think they're going to get the best out of Joe Flacco. And so I don't think Joe Flacco's going anywhere as their starting quarterback. And I think once we see Lamar Jackson contribute in other ways than quarterback, that's going to change the trajectory of his quarterback career in the NFL. This is going to work well for the Ravens, not so well for Lamar Jackson.
I'm going to defer to the scout.
I disagree. I think this is a perfect environment for Lamar Jackson to be the quarterback.
One, when you think about the Baltimore Ravens are a franchise under Ozzie Newsome, who's always typically drafted well. When you look at the coaches that were in place, Marty Mornwig, Greg Roman, they're guys that are very experienced in dealing with dual-threat quarterbacks. So Lamar Jackson goes into a quarterback room where he is going to have the support that he needs and a system that is going to allow him to play the way that he needs to play. And then when you think about the Joe Flacco thing, Joe Flacco is in a situation where this is going to be the last year that we see Joe Flacco in Baltimore. Joe Flacco has not won a significant amount of games since he signed a big contract. And even when he bet on himself, the organization was lukewarm on Joe Flacco, and they've continued to be so. So this is a situation where when you're hitting the veterans excited about Lamar Jackson, it's because they see the talent, they see the athleticism, and he's brought a buzz that hasn't been there since Joe Flacco is there. And the competition will make Joe Flacco better, but I think he is what he is. He's just an average quarterback. I think Baltimore wants better.
But if you know Lamar Jackson's persona, you know how this kid's cut, and he's a really good young guy. His head's going to be spinning through the course of the year. It would have been really nice for him to be in a more settled situation behind a quarterback like Drew Brees, who didn't have to worry about his future, who with Sean Payton has been maybe the closest thing to Montana and Walsh that we've seen from an offensive standpoint with one franchise for a long period of time. Boy, his people should have taken that call from New Orleans so he could have gone before Ozzie Newsome took him. I don't think there's any question that he's going to be a solid quarterback, but not having a Joe Flacco that's going to be as supportive as Drew might have been for him long-term is going to affect Lamar's productivity, I believe.
I agree with you, Jason, on this one. I think that this is a great situation for the Ravens and not so much for Lamar Jackson, solely because when I look at what's around him, at the skill positions, there's nothing around him to support him. Yeah. When you look at every other young quarterback that got drafted in the first round this year, you got the Bills, they have talent around their young guy. You got the Browns, they have talent there now. Yep. You have the Cardinals, they have talent there now. Sam Darnold with the New York Jets is the only other comparison that really doesn't have a lot to work with offensively. And when you talk about him being able to run at different positions, all that, I think that is what they're most excited about. But more importantly, just the fact that he's our best athlete on this offensive team.
Yeah, and
on the whole team. Bucky, I want to say this. Let's take your position that this is it for Joe Flacco. He's not going to play well enough to keep his job in Baltimore. If that's the case, you know who's getting fired as well? John Harbaugh. And that Ozzie Newsome, we know he's done at the end of this year. So he will have been drafted into a place that will have a new general manager, and I know they're keeping a guy that's already in-house, but it's still a new general manager. His reputation isn't attached to Lamar Jackson, and they're going to have a new head coach. This is not the great fit for Lamar.
I think here's what the situation is. Look, Joe Flacco has been right around 500 since they won the Super Bowl. The thing about the Baltimore Ravens, and when you think about the Ravens, you think about their defense, you think about when they're at their best, they run the ball. Well, what Lamar Jackson does, when you put him in at quarterback, he changes the dynamic because now, regardless of whether he runs around or not, defensively, you now have to play 11 on 11. You have to count for the quarterback every time as a runner. That is going to improve the way that they play. And when you think about this division is a rough and tumble division. It is one where you got to play rock'em sock'em football. And so I know Greg talks about them not having weapons around him, but they drafted 2 tight ends around them. Yeah. Those tight ends were drafted with Lamar Jackson in mind. They brought Michael Crabtree over. They have Willie Snead. I'm not saying those guys are A-level receivers.
Willie Snead is.
They're good enough in the right situation to help him. And remember, we can go back and we can talk about Kaepernick and whether he can or can't play. In San Francisco, Michael Crabtree emerged when Colin Kaepernick was on the field. I believe that Michael Crabtree is there to be a guy to help Lamar Jackson go to the thing.
Yeah, you only like Willie Snead because he went to Ball State.
No, Willie Snead's a great player.
And he was the third option in New Orleans, by the way.
He catches everything.
Third option in New Orleans.
He catches everything.
If Willie Snead was that great of a player, he would still be in New Orleans.
He had
third option in New Orleans.
He had issues. Willie Snead's a great player. Trust me.
You're gonna but he was the third option in New Orleans, though.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Lamar would have had a lot more weaponry
to do with the fact that your alma
mater. It's a coincidence that he played at Ball State. It's just a coincidence. He's a great player. Yeah. But honest to goodness, I hear everything you're saying. And the thing about playing in that division, when he runs around in the jungle out there, he's gonna get touched. And he's not Cam Newton. he will fall just the same way as RG3 fell, and anybody else that chooses to run out of that pocket too many times, he's thin. He'll get touched, and he won't get up.
He will get up. And here's the thing. The RG3 thing actually was the tipping point that kind of let it be known that the Baltimore Ravens had a serious interest in Lamar Jackson. For so long, we've heard when you take an athletic quarterback, you have to change your system if he gets hurt to back up in. Well, now RG3 is going to be the backup. And so regardless of whether he still can play at a high level, the thing that they don't have to do is if Lamar Jackson goes out, they can run the same offense. It is an organizational play for Lamar Jackson to be the quarterback. I think Eric DeCosta and whoever's going to be in the mix after these guys so-called depart, I believe they're all in on Lamar Jackson.
All right, to New England, where Tom Brady's unlike Brady offseason continued this week. After skipping most of the team's spring workouts already, Brady decided to blow off the final week of Patriots OTAs so he could go play golf with Phil Mickelson and Ricky Fowler. I've been on Brady's side this offseason, and I still am on Brady's side, but I think this is bad for the NFL. I think that Tom Brady and Peyton Manning set a standard for all in on football. And as long as everybody around the league could point to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning about being all in, everybody else was kind of held to that standard. Once Tom Brady goes this route of, OTAs ain't that important, and all these things that coaches want us to do, not that important. When he defies Bill Belichick in this way, I think it's going to have a sprinkle-down effect and affect the rest of the league. And now when you go to Odell Beckham Jr. or Antonio Brown or anybody in the league, well, Tom Brady didn't do it. Why do I got to do it? I think it could have an impact on the rest of it. And maybe it's a good impact, because maybe OTAs and all this stuff, we make too much of it.
We do. We do. Thank you. We make way too much of OTA. This has been going on forever. Like, no one makes if you're a young guy trying to volley for a spot on the roster, yes, you're at every offseason training, you're at every OTA practice, you're at every possible thing or function that the team is having when the doors are open. But when you're an established guy, you're not there every single day. You're just not. And especially the last week of OTAs, the final two practices, the installs have already been in. Yeah. You're going to give the younger guys a lot more reps. This is not mandatory. And I'm going to tell you one thing. If Tiger Woods called you and a couple other guys called you and said, and they were out here, hey, Jason, let's come up. Hold on. And you have the option to work today or not. Yeah. And Tiger calls you.
Whitlock. We work.
To your point, though, I do think that the Gronkowski part of this is the more interesting aspect, because he's already hinted. And if you just look at the way he conducts himself, how he felt after the Super Bowl was over, the investment that's been made, how long is he going to last? I think maybe Brady understands how much Gronk really does mean. And he may outlast, he meaning Brady, could outlast Belichick. Because I get the feeling that Belichick may be closer to the end than Tom Brady is. And Gronkowski, I think, is the linchpin to how long Tom stays.
Well, I think that is all true. I think Greg hit the nail on the head. When you're a veteran player, you're a veteran quarterback, man, quarterbacks have a certain set of liberties that every other player doesn't have. We've seen Brett Favre kind of come and go and do as he pleases. That's kind of what they do. I think the big thing that is telling about New England now, Tom Brady feels underappreciated. He said that, he verbalized it. He has made a lot of sacrifices for this team, for this organization, not taking top money, doing some things, kind of being the message for Bill Belichick. Well, if he's not being respected and they're not winning the Super Bowl like they thought they should have when Malcolm Butler didn't play, now he's like, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing all this? Why am I carrying your water when you're not making the right decisions to give us the best opportunity to win? I'm going to go about it. I'm going to enjoy my life. Look, I'm going to show up when it's time to show up. I'm going to continue to be the MVP quarterback that I've always been, but I'm not going out of my way to be a Patriot and to do it the Patriots way when you haven't done the same in return.
I think what you just said is the key. He's going to enjoy this final run. And this goes against what every Patriot guy who we've had on have said, Willie McGinnis and all these guys, they have a ton of fun over there. No, they do not. And winning cures everything, but when you've lost, it unravels everything.
All All right, welcome back. Jim Jackson, Chris Broussard, and Jason McIntyre are back. Let's move to Oklahoma City, where Paul George might be sticking around longer than anybody thought. Reportedly, there is now a growing belief around the league that George will end up staying with Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Billy Donovan, and the Thunder instead of pursuing other options like trying to team up with LeBron James in Los Angeles. I got to say, I'd lose respect for George if he doesn't get out of OKC.
Why?
Because Carmelo Anthony is still there. Because Billy Donovan is still the coach. Because Russell Westbrook still doesn't know how to share the ball at crunch time. This would be mad. If you have a chance to go play with LeBron James, or just get the hell out of it. They're not winning anything. As long as Carmelo is there, as long as Billy Donovan is there, they ain't winning. And as long as Russell Westbrook continues to just be ball dominant and not know how to involve other teammates, it's just a bad fit.
Didn't you just write an essay ripping Kevin Durant for going to play with a winning team?
The Lakers aren't a winning team.
With LeBron?
With
They're not
LeBron
a winning
James?
team.
I would actually gain respect. I have respect for him now, and I'm fine with him if he leaves. I think he's going to go to the Lakers. But I would gain respect for him if he said, you know what? I'm going to try to build.
Carmelo.
Yeah, I'm going to try
Carmelo.
to win it here. I'm not thinking about Carmelo. I'm thinking about Russell Westbrook. Players who say,
Let me trump you.
Allen
Let me
Iverson
trump
said
you.
he's
Let me
staying in
trump you.
Philly.
Hold on, let me trump you. You ever had a best friend that was marrying the wrong guy or girl, and you said, yeah, you know what? I respect you for sticking with him. No, you don't. You sit there and go, man, I knew they were crazy when they married that person. That's exactly what Paul George would be doing. It would be crazy to stick there with Melo and that mess at OKC.
See, now he's saying
I
something.
don't
This is a
agree.
little smarter.
That was a good
But you guys have
analogy.
missed it.
That was a good one. That was a good one. He couldn't say that. That was a good one.
You silenced Broussard, which is impossible. Okay, the one word you guys haven't said is happiness. We don't know if Paul George is happy in OKC. What if he's having fun? What if he loves Russell Westbrook? I mean, I think that's crazy, but it could be true. He could love the atmosphere. He could love the city, the people.
Ponderosa.
Maybe he likes it. I don't know. But I'm not going to lose respect for a guy if he stays in OKC. That's a little harsh.
Well, it's a different kind of pressure, too, because depending on what happens with the Lakers, there's more pressure if he goes out there and he's kind of the top free agent guy. He's expected to go to the Lakers and catapult that team to be a contender. Depending on who else comes along. If it's LeBron, then he doesn't have that pressure. In OKC, he doesn't have that pressure. It's still on Russell Westbrook, okay? So it depends on the mentality of what Paul George or who he thinks he really is and what he wants to accomplish. The Carmelo thing is only 1 year. Exactly. He's gone after that.
And he'll probably, my guess is he might get bought out anyway.
Exactly. So it's a matter of, one, is he comfortable playing with Russell and the organization there in OKC? And does he love his position a lot more with not having the pressure in OKC as compared to
We're also
LA?
speculating that he's automatically going to the Lakers with LeBron. What if LeBron says, I like Paul George. I don't love him. I want Chris Paul. I want my buddy. What if he doesn't want LeBron? If LeBron doesn't want Paul George, then what?
How about this? Paul George, while I like him and LeBron in LA, to me, the best options for him are Philly or Houston.
Yeah,
Houston, he could be you lose some players. Maybe you lose a PJ Tucker.
But that's an upgrade
He's a
in
great
that-
defender.
yeah,
Exactly. He's
exactly.
a better spot-up shooter than LeBron. He's a better three-point shooter than LeBron. At this stage, he's probably a better defender than LeBron. He's a great fit in Houston and Philadelphia. Philadelphia, he comes in, he could be a natural third or second option. He'd be a second scoring option to Embiid. LeBron comes in, he changes everything.
But you would
and now he
prefer
becomes
him to stay with that crazy
No,
girlfriend.
I would prefer to see him in Philly. Me personally.
Philly or Houston, but probably
Philly because of the Eastern Conference and his path to success.
And so if he chooses to stay there, why not lose a touch of respect for him for making
I'm not because you know why? Because
Like
he got 5 years, 175.
Yes,
compared to
exactly.
4 years, 130.
That's right.
Okay, so that extra year gets you 35 more
business
million,
decision.
$45 more million.
You were saving that in your back
I
pocket.
had that right there.
All right, let's move to the Lakers, who reportedly have told Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma to dial back their social media feud after Lonzo dropped a diss track mocking Kuzma for not knowing who his father is. It didn't help that LeVar went on The Herd and told Cowherd that Lonzo and Kuzma aren't that tight and maybe don't like each other. I think it's time for the Lakers to cut their losses and move on from the Ball family, Lonzo in particular. Listen, apples don't fall far from trees. And so let's say Lonzo did roll away from the father. It ain't gonna be that far. He's still gonna be shaded by LeVar Ball. And I think a lot of this personality that we think Lonzo doesn't have like his father, I think he actually does have. How else are you making these rap diss tracks if you're not LeVar's child?
Well, he's getting influenced. And I think it's unfortunate in today's world that now general managers have to deal with a lot more in regards to social media, okay? Because guys want to be superstars within playing the game. They want to try to perfect other things other than just their basketball game, and it comes back to hurt. And Chris and I were talking about this. Kyle Kuzma comes in from the fact, I think his ego has gotten bigger since he's been here in L.A., unknown, so to speak, in the world of basketball, jumped onto the scene, and now it's Kuz. They're going back and forth. Upside-wise, who has the most upside? Is it LeVar? I mean, Lonzo?
I think Lonzo has more upside.
Exactly, but I just think that in this situation is not a good look in regards to two guys going on social media. If you got beef or if you want to clown with each other, do it, bro. Have fun at it. But Lonzo went personal, and I don't know how type of person Kyle is. Certain things I'm not going to get over. You start talking about me and my father, somebody I don't know, that's personal.
No, I agree with you. And even with all this said, I would not be set on trading Lonzo right now unless LeBron gives an ultimatum. Like, I'm not coming if he's there. Then obviously you move him. But if, let's say LeBron's out of the picture, he's not coming to L.A., I try to make it work with Lonzo. Now, like you said, Kuzma, that's something that would sting when you talk about his dad and make you consider, is this dude even my boy? Like, can we even be cool like that? Now, let me say this. Obviously, Lonzo went overboard. Kuzma, though, started it. I mean, they've always gone back and forth this whole year. But he put out this Bleacher Report thing about player hater of the year. He just probably can't rap. If he could rap, his thing was just as big. He just couldn't rap. So he did this production, though, and Lonzo kind of went another step and did the rap. But he obviously went too far.
I think Whitlock's spot on. When you look at last year, Magic Johnson came in February, okay? Then you had the D'Angelo Russell situation. What happened in June? D'Angelo Russell, see ya. I'm not putting up with this Iggy Azalea, Nick Young stuff. He got rid of the point guard who was the number 2 pick.
But he had
because
issues with it before, though.
Extracurricular stuff.
He didn't live up to his hype before.
Okay,
so
well,
he had
Lonzo
that in his
just
back
shot
pocket.
30%, Jim.
He had
45% from the free throw line.
45%
from the free throw line.
Between the father, the diss track, the not ability to shoot, the circus atmosphere around this, and we know, as you said, LeBron doesn't play with point guards, okay? Look what happened with Kyrie and LeBron. Like, LeBron wants the ball. I think all signs are pointing to Lonzo's out of here, sooner than later.
Where are you going? Who gonna take it?
I mean, call up Milwaukee, call Phoenix, get me some shooters.
Okay, but if he's why would a team take it? If he's having issues with LeVar here, who's gonna take it?
Lithuania.
Lonzo Ball is a top 10 jersey seller, okay? When Lonzo went to the Lakers, they got 35 national TV games last year. He's still a box office draw. Teams like him, and some of them need him. Well, the Lakers don't.
The kids shoot. All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's return to the U.S. Open, where Tiger Woods has had some struggles today, currently sitting at +8 through 14 holes. He'll tee off around 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Jim, what do you expect from Tiger moving forward?
Well, it's unfortunate because I love Tiger Woods, but in our pool of bets, I was number 3 and Tiger's name was still out there. I went with Henry Stenson. I mean, my money was on it because, I don't like the body language, the mental aspect, and when things go bad for Tigers, we've seen here, they go bad.
We talked earlier in the show. I love Tiger. He's my second favorite athlete of all time after Magic Johnson. He's got a glass jaw. And so the U.S. Open is the toughest golf tournament in the world. And now with that wind whipping around, it's like a British Open with U.S. Open greens. And people think I was joking, but I thought yesterday I said I think there's a better chance of him missing the cut than making the top 10. And this morning when I woke up, but right before his teed off, I said I think he's going to miss the cut. This is playing with Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas, 2 of the best players in the world. I think that was a bad mix. I think the course is a bad mix. I think that what we saw last week in the Memorial was a precursor. Tiger struggled putting last week, and it's just golf requires so many different elements. and putting them all together in the same deal, that's how you win tournaments. I don't think Tiger can do that.
The mental
right now.
aspect, the best part of his game, the mentality, putting, saving par, saving a bogey instead of a double bogey. He's not doing that right now. And on this course, even with the conditions maybe changing tomorrow, it doesn't bode well for him moving forward. You may be right. Hopefully
Shout
you're
out
not.
my man Blake May back in Kansas City. I'll take my 100s in all ones.